One year before Garnacho became famous, Ronaldo said something that nobody treated as a prophecy, but absolutely was. He said, "If you have a good example in front of your eyes and you do not copy it, for me, it is kind of weird." He was not talking about Garnacho. He had no reason to be. But Garnacho heard it anyway. And then he went out and proved it right in front of 60,000 people at Old Trafford. Some players you watch and feel something shift inside you. Not just appreciation, something closer to recognition. The feeling that this particular human being was placed on a football pitch by something beyond accident. That the way they move belongs to a category you did not know existed until this exact second. Alejandro Garnacho was that feeling for 3 minutes in November 2023 at Goodison Park. The cross came in high, arcing, seemingly going nowhere. Garnacho read it before anyone else in the stadium understood what was happening. 2 shuffled steps backwards. His whole body launched into the air. And the bicycle kick that followed did not just go in. It screamed into the top corner with the kind of contact that makes you grab the person sitting next to you because you need confirmation that what you just saw was real. This obsession started long before Old Trafford. As an 11-year-old at the Atlético Madrid academy, Garnacho demanded the number 7 shirt because that was Ronaldo's number. And in the world Garnacho had built inside himself, there was only one number worth wearing. He wore CR7 branded underwear during matches. He practiced the Siu celebration in his bedroom until the timing was perfect. His teammates at Atletico knew not to bring Messi into any conversation without preparing for consequences. Garnacho had built himself around a single idea of what a footballer could be, and the whole structure carried Ronaldo's name load-bearing at every corner. When Manchester United signed him in October 2020 for £420,000, beating Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid to his signature, they did not just buy a 16-year-old winger. They handed a boy the keys to the exact building his entire imagination had been living inside. Old Trafford, the theater of dreams, the place where Ronaldo had become Ronaldo. To step onto that grass for the first time must have felt like being handed the thing you spent your whole childhood drawing pictures of. Within 2 years, he had justified every feeling that came with it. He scored in every round of the FA Youth Cup. He scored twice in the final in front of 67,000 people. He pushed his way into Ralf Rangnick's first team before he was 18. And when Erik ten Hag arrived and tried to freeze him out for poor professionalism in preseason, Garnacho responded at Craven Cottage in the 93rd minute with a 1-2 that looked like telepathy, a burst of pace that looked like weather, and a left-footed finish that looked like someone who had been waiting all his life to do exactly that. There is the thing about Cristiano Ronaldo that Garnacho worshipped from the outside without understanding from the inside. When Ronaldo won his first Ballon d'Or at Old Trafford in 2008, he did not take a breath. When he won the Champions League, he did not soften. When he scored his famous bicycle kick against Juventus in the Champions League, and the opposition fans gave him a standing ovation, he filed it away and went to the gym at 6 the next morning. Every recognition Ronaldo ever received was fuel thrown onto a fire that was already burning before the world was paying attention. He did not need the attention to burn. He burned regardless. Garnacho received the Puskás Award and started treating his career like an achievement rather than a foundation. He liked social media posts criticizing his own manager. He liked posts aimed at his own teammate, Lisandro Martinez. He posted cryptic photos suggesting he wanted to leave while he was still contracted to the club. He was 20 years old, had one genuine world-class moment behind him, and was already carrying himself like the ascent was finished. Garnacho had copied everything visible about Ronaldo. The number, the celebration, the swagger, the hair, the image. But the part that made all of those visible things mean something was the invisible part. The suffering, the obsession, the refusal to confuse recognition with arrival. That part never transferred. When Ruben Amorim arrived at Manchester United in November 2024, he brought a system that had no room for passengers. The 3-4-3 he ran at Sporting CP was built on relentless pressing, narrow forwards who covered enormous ground defensively, and a collective discipline that demanded everyone inside it to subordinate themselves to the structure. for a right-footed winger who needed touchline freedom and space to run at defenders in the way that made him electric. The fit was uncomfortable from the first training session. That discomfort was a choice in front of Garnacho. Adapt, suffer, learn the shape, and earn the trust. Every great player who has ever existed has faced a version of that choice at some point. The ones who become legends choose the harder thing and come out the other side transformed by it. The ones who become cautionary tales do not. The moment it broke came on a December night against Victoria Plzen in the Europa League. Garnacho was waiting to come on as a substitute. Amorim walked to the touchline to give him instructions. This exchange, manager talks, substitute listens, has happened on every football pitch in the world since substitutes existed. Garnacho turned around and walked away, while Amorim was still speaking. The whole bench saw it. Amorim saw it, and without heat, without drama, with the calm of someone who had already made their decision, he dropped Garnacho from the Manchester Derby squad the following week. United won 2-1 without him. Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, and Harry Maguire sat him down privately and said what senior players say to young players who are burning their own house down. The words landed and left without taking root. This is the moment Ronaldo's interview became something different. It stopped being something he said about a generation. It became something he said about one specific person, in one specific building, at one specific crossroads. There was a brief window where it seemed like Garnacho understood the stakes. Amorim gave him another chance in January 2025, praised him publicly, and said he had changed in everything. And for a period, he was right. Garnacho contributed. He played every round of the Europa League that season, all the way to the final in Bilbao against Tottenham, the kind of stage that an entire career is supposed to build toward. On the morning of the final, Garnacho posted Instagram photos of himself scoring in the FA Cup final and the Community Shield. He already knew he was not starting. He had found out, and instead of the silence that situation deserves, he told the world in images. Mason Mount, the man who had been handed the number 7 shirt that Garnacho had publicly wanted for years, started ahead of him. Garnacho came on in the 71st minute. United lost 1-0. At the press conference, he said, "Up until the final, I played every round helping the team, and today, I played 20 minutes. I do not know." That sentence tells you everything about where his mind was. The language of someone keeping score of what they are owed, rather than feeling what the team just lost. Amorim told him not to return for preseason. He trained alone. Chelsea signed him for £40 million on a 7-year deal. And he chose the number 49, his very first United squad number, the number from before any of it went wrong. There is something quietly painful in that choice, the reaching backwards instead of forward, as if a shirt number could return something that decisions had removed. While Garnacho was leaving, Kobbie Mainoo was staying. Mainoo had been just as marginalized by Amorim's system. The same tactical wall, the same months of substitute appearances and careful omissions. He could have pushed for a move, and nobody would have blamed him. Instead, he trained, waited, and said nothing. When Michael Carrick took over in January 2026 and rebuilt the system around the players, Mainoo stepped into the middle of Manchester United and became one of the most compelling players in the country. Starting every game, England's World Cup contention. The heartbeat of a club is climbing back towards something real. The suffering that Garnacho left to escape was the exact material Mainoo used to build something lasting. Garnacho, as of March 2026, has 1 Premier League goal in 19 Chelsea appearances. He is 21 years old. His contract runs until 2032. There is time. The talent was never the question. It was never even close to the question. The problem has always been the relationship the person carrying the gift has with the work required to keep it alive. Ronaldo described that problem in November 2022, sitting in a Manchester United kit, days before the club that defined him released him. He described a generation that had everything available and still could not learn from the example standing directly in front of them. And somewhere at Carrington, the most devoted Ronaldo worshiper in the building. The boy who had spent years dressing himself in CR7's image was either listening or was not. What Garnacho took from Ronaldo was the surface of everything: the celebration, the shirt number, the strut, the brand. What he missed was the only part that survives without an audience: the work that happens before the lights come on, the discipline that does not need to be seen to be real, the refusal to treat a peak moment as a resting place. He copied the man completely, just not the part that made the man. Ronaldo never said his name. He did not need to. The story said it for him. So tell us in the comments, do you think he still finds it at Chelsea? Or is this already the story of the talent that got away?